Valerie. Rikin Patel.
Thanks. Very proud to be here and part of this very exciting and diverse movement with tremendous momentum. My name is Rikin Patel. I'm co-founder and executive director of Avaaz, and we're one of the core partners of Global Zero. Avaaz is a new global web movement that's just launched in 2007 and has rapidly grown to be the largest global web movement in history. We have about 4.5 million members and growing by about 50,000 people a week. We're in every country and operating in 14 languages. And in just this last few years, all across the world, from Brazil, France, Israel, Iran, India, an agreement and an alignment around this goal of Global Zero. Because our mission is to close the gap between the world we have and the world most people ever want, the world we all dream of. And nuclear weapons is a key part of that gap. These monstrous weapons, this Frankenstein of history, is something that the world's people are aligned around getting rid of. And I think that what Global Zero is doing is moving this agreement from a place of common agreement to shared urgency. And I think we'll see that escalate, and I'm very excited about the film coming out soon. Because I think that people are agreed across the world that this system is broken, that it's indefensible, it's unsustainable, and it's unsafe. And there's a lot of attention on particular problems like Iran, but we're looking at dozens more Irans in the future if we don't fix this broken system. So Avaaz has already mobilized nationally in certain countries and globally around this objective. And we're going to see over the coming days, I think, a surge of mobilization around this particular objective, the nuclear summit. I think we'll see hundreds of thousands of people mobilizing for Monday, Tuesday, the summit next week. And then in the coming months, we'll see members in individual countries in each part of the world driving the Global Zero agenda forward, organizing around the film and other objectives in the Global Zero Action Plan. And then I think in the coming years, we'll see the growth of an unstoppable movement to realize the dream of zero. Thanks.
Thank you. Richard Cizik.
Good morning, everyone. In 1980, I came to Washington, D.C. as a newly minted Christian clergyman and a conservative. And it was one of my first actions as a young man to propose an idea that had never been considered, at least by my fellow evangelicals. And it went like this: invite the President of the United States to speak to evangelicals on the morality of nuclear weapons and the Cold War. Mind you, this was early 1983. Well, the proposal went to the White House, and surprisingly enough, I got a phone call back from the speechwriters. They said, come meet with us. I said, I'd be delighted to do so, and we did. And what happened was the following. On March 6, 1983, President Ronald Reagan delivered a blockbuster speech called the Evil Empire Speech to the National Association of Evangelicals. Liberals decried it, conservatives applauded, and a great moral issue developed and followed, a great debate. I was a conservative. I didn't notice in those days one line in that famous speech in which then President Reagan proclaimed, as he later did at Reykjavik and is recounted in the movie, his intention, his wishes to eliminate entirely from the face of the planet nuclear weapons. I didn't hear it because maybe I didn't want to hear it. I changed. Millions of Americans have changed their views as well over these years and now view this threat, especially nuclear terrorism, with a reality and a fear that is rightly placed. And thus, they need to change. I say, if you've never changed your mind about anything, pinch yourself. You may be dead. I don't think anyone here would accuse Lawrence Bender of being a clergyman or a theologian. Isn't that right, Lawrence? Correct. Okay. Thank you very much. But I will point this out. Whether intentionally or not, Lawrence Bender and the others associated with this film, an extraordinary film, what they have done is aim at the heart of what theologians describe as the twin tendencies which must be repudiated. The first tendency is to trivialize the nuclear horror, or to become so accustomed to the possibility of it, you see, that we lose our sense of outrage, of indignation at the idea of it all. And the second twin tendency is to become so pessimistic about the future, you see, as to acquiesce to it in helplessness. And so both indifference and pessimism are inappropriate, theologians say. I would say more than inappropriate, they're wrong-headed. They are the sins of omission, if not commission, this indifference and this pessimism. And this extraordinary film, Countdown to Zero, I think goes right at them. Lawrence, did you know that? Maybe not, but you have. On behalf of my fellow faith community, I say we are together with you in this. Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, Sikh, and others all would affirm what T.S. Eliot in 1939 said, quote, "The fact that a problem will require the attention of the greatest minds and challenge a generation to solve it is no excuse for postponing addressing it," unquote. I liked one point in the movie. It's slightly humorous, if you'll pardon me for recounting it. But the founder of Global Ground Zero, Roger Molander, was worried, he was told at a meeting at the Pentagon years ago, about, quote, getting too excited about nuclear war that would end the world, when in fact he was told only 500 million would die. Only 500 million would be killed. I reached for my hat, Molander said, knowing how Woody Allen felt in Annie Hall when he excused himself from a conversation by saying that he had an appointment back on planet Earth. On behalf of all of planet Earth and all of mankind, I say we have this vision. It's a vision for a world without nuclear weapons. A vision, I say often, without a strategy is a hallucination. Believe me, friends and colleagues, we know we are not hallucinating. This is possible. The strategy is very clear, and we ask you to join us. And we will win this. Some would say, well, for the Gipper. Back to Ronald Reagan, remember? I would say, we'll win it for all of mankind, forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now to talk specifically and briefly, so you can get a chance to ask some questions. I'm going to turn to Jeff Skoll, who in turn is going to introduce Lawrence Bender. Jeff?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. On behalf of Participant Media, I'm delighted to say a few words about our new film, Countdown to Zero. And as a bit of background, I started Participant in 2004 to be a media company focused on social change in the biggest issues in the world. And since that time, we've released 23 films that have been nominated for 17 Academy Awards, including such films as Charlie Wilson's War and the Kite Runner, about Afghanistan, Syriana, about oil dependence, and Good Night and Good Luck, about civil liberties and the role of the press. And we've also won Oscars twice for Best Documentary, for The Cove this year and for An Inconvenient Truth several years ago. The film, Countdown to Zero, started about 3 years ago when I had returned from a trip to the Middle East, and it seemed that everybody was talking about Iran and nuclear weapons, but the bigger issues of nuclear accidents and nuclear terrorism were largely off the radar. And so much like we had done with climate change, we wanted to do a film about nuclear weapons to get it back on the public agenda. And as it happened, one of my first calls was to Lawrence Bender, who we had worked together on An Inconvenient Truth, and he pointed me to Matt Brown and Bruce Blair of Global Zero, and very quickly we all agreed to do a film together. For Participant, the film is just part of a major public awareness campaign that we're launching in partnership with Global Zero. The campaign will be a coalition of 50 or so organizations, including online partners like Avaaz and MySpace, civil society partners like the NRDC and Greenpeace, and many others. And by the end of the year, we expect several million people will see the film, either in theaters or on DVD or on TV with our partner, the History Channel. And it will most certainly be the biggest public awareness campaign about nuclear weapons since the 1980s. And as I'm sure you'll agree, the timing could not be better. So thank you very much for coming here today. And I'll now turn it over to the film's producer, who is neither a clergyman nor a theologian, Lawrence Bender, to say a few words.
Thank you, Jeff.